Well. Guess who's back? Did you guys miss me? I took a little break just because, honestly, I'll be 100% honest with you guys. I just kind of started feeling forced. I started feeling like I had to do it instead of like I wanted to do it, and I just felt like, okay, I need to take a step back. Like, is this really something I want to do? It wasn't really coming out the way I wanted, like how I pictured it in my head, and I actually like re-listened to some episodes and deleted them. I was like, I don't know, this just isn't what I wanted to do. Um, but I still want to do this, so I'm gonna come back with a vengeance. And today's episode, since I'm putting it out in spooky season, I decided that I wanted to talk about like Halloween. Halloween just seems to be like everybody's favorite holiday, right? Like everybody loves fucking spooky season.
But where does it come from, right? So I'm not going to give you a history lesson and spend the entire podcast talking about like the origins of Halloween because I honestly could, but I'm not going to do that. Basically, like Hallow meaning holy person, Een a derivative of Eve, right? So All Hallows Eve is where it comes from, right? But where did it actually come from? European pagan rituals and stuff like that is what a lot of people will tell you like it's a pagan holiday, and that's where it originated, right? Like the origins come from the Celtic pagans. Um, it kind of was like a Celtic pagan holiday, right? It was called Samhain, which I always pronounced Samhain when I saw it, but it's pronounced Samhain. And it was like a 3-day festival celebrating like death and rebirth, dark and light, the end of the harvest, stuff like that, right? And that, with all the traditions they had around Samhain, it was kind of a time where they felt like because it was separation of dark and light, that time was a good time where they could revisit their lost loved ones. But it also was a time where evil spirits could come through and they would wear costumes, right? That's where the costumes came from to ward off the evil spirits. So um, they had all these different traditions and stuff like that to ward off the evil spirits. So that's basically where it originated. Um, and I'm not gonna get into like a history lesson and stuff like that. Like I don't have time for that. But basically, what it ended up being was the Romans came and you know conquered that area and started saying, "Oh, we're not going to celebrate this pagan holiday anymore." So they tried to evolve it into like an All Saints Day, which still celebrated like the death and rebirth. And go research that stuff. It's pretty fucking cool. And then it evolved into like Halloween, which was just like holy person and Eve, like All Hallows Eve, right? Which is kind of the same concept. They just took some of the pagan traditions out of it and tried to make it more religious, or more Christian, I guess you can call it. I don't know, but so basically, like the way it evolved into what it is now, the way we celebrate things is when they came over and colonized this country, and uh, a lot of Irish immigrants came over after the potato famine, right, or during the potato famine, and they brought these Samhain traditions over, right, but they still celebrated stuff like that, and they brought them here, and it ended up turning into what we know as Halloween, right? They continued it because they didn't want like the Christians that were here didn't want, the this celebrated, right? They still had some of it, but they didn't want it celebrated because it was pagan, right? It was the devil, Bobby Boucher. And they basically like tried to ban it and stuff like that, but the Irish immigrants kept it going, and it turned into what it is today. Um, I suggest research it though, because I think it's pretty fucking cool, like how it evolved into what it is. Like what is trick or treating, right? You think like, oh, trick or treating, trick or treat. So basically, one of the traditions and one of the things that was always happening was like playing pranks and stuff like that during All Hallows Eve, and they basically figured out, hey, if we give these kids treats, they won't fucking play these pranks, right? And it turned into trick or treat, right? I'm very much paraphrasing, but it's like fucking cool. Like that's how it ended up being what it is. But that's where Halloween comes from. But like for me, like I don't give a shit. Like I'm all about the candy. Like when I was a kid, I just cared about candy. I was like, nom nom, give me the fucking cavities and diabetes, man. I don't give a fuck. Like give me that candy. I mean, I didn't even care about dressing up or like, even to this day, like I Halloween's cool, but like I'm all about Halloween candy. Um, but some people love the spookiness of it, the being scared, like, I know a lot of people that love going to, like, the haunted houses and being scared, and that's super fun, like, I love that shit. Like, when me and my girlfriend our first date was actually at Lagoon, which, um We call that our first date, and pretty much is. I mean, we knew each other at work and stuff, but like Lagoon during Halloween time, like during spooky season, was like our first date, and we went haunted houses and stuff like that. So that's like a huge memory for us. And my girlfriend loves the haunted houses, and um, that's like where we started. So it's a huge memory. And then when I would come to visit, we would always go to haunted houses to come to visit during this time, and we would go to haunted houses. That's kind of one of our things, and um, that's what people like about Halloween, right? But I have a lot of like really good memories of growing up. It's a lot of memories with costumes, and Halloween was one of my favorite times of the year. Do you guys remember in the 80s, like I guess anyone who's like my age, we had these costumes that like everybody wore, all the kids wore, and they were like this vinyl, like I don't even remember if it was like it was like a shirt and pants or whatever, or just a shirt, but I just remember this like vinyl. It smelled like plastic, and it was probably super flammable, and it didn't even have like it wasn't even like the like a depiction of the actual character you wanted to be, but it was just like an advertisement for the show or whatever the character was, and it had like this mask that was like plastic, and all the edges were sharp, and it had this little tiny string that went around your head, and like that was the costume. And they were spooky as shit. Like they were scary if you really look at pictures from back then. They look scary, and all the kids had them, right? You had to have that costume. It wasn't even original. Like how original is that? Like, but all the kids had them, right? Those are the popular costumes at the time. I remember like early '80s when I was a kid. It was like that was the costume. It was so fucking lame if you really think about it, but those were the costumes, right? And I remember me and my best friend at the time, we went trick or treating as the Dukes of Hazard, but um, they only had Bo Duke, right, who was the blonde one. They didn't have any of the dark ones, so we painted the hair on it, the blonde hair. We painted it dark, and he went as Luke, and I went as Bo, and we were the Dukes of Hazard. And that show is super racist if you really think. But I guess it wasn't racist, but like their car was called the General Lee, right? And they had a Confederate flag painted on on the roof of the car. But that was my favorite show at the time when I was a kid. That was my favorite show, and I love that show. But we went as Bo and Luke Duke, and those costumes were super lame.
They had like Knight Rider and fucking I don't know. I don't remember like all of them, but they were the lamest costumes, but everybody had them, and you had to wear that. You weren't cool unless you had one like that. And man, I remember one of my favorite costumes I ever wore was, I dressed up like Commando, like the movie Commando, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I intricately put this costume together. Like, I had to have every detail correct. Like, I had a vest, and I had, like, grenades hanging off the vest, and, it was fucking badass, and I had the right pants. It had to be exactly what, because this was, like, my favorite movie. Like, me and my brother, like, memorized every line, and we used to play Commando, and we'd act out scenes in Commando. So, like, when Halloween came, like, I had to be Commando. So I got, like, a flat top just like he had in the movie, had the right face paint, and he had this little scar, like, bloody scar at the end, like, on his forehead, and I had to have that painted on there too. Man, it was the most badass costume I ever had, and I remember, thinking I was such a badass going around, trick or treating in Lake LA. Um, I honestly can't remember any more of my costumes that I had when I was younger, to tell you the truth. That Commando one just kinda stuck in my head. That movie was, one of my favorite movies, like, ever, still is, and I had to put it together perfectly. It was so amazing. I don't know why I can't remember any more of my costumes, but that one just really stuck in my head.
But fast forward to like being a father and getting the kids ready for Halloween, getting them ready in their costumes, and just I remember all the cute costumes my kids always wore, and then later on when they were older, wanting to do like the scarier costumes, and um, just taking them door to door, and them saying trick or treat, stuff like that. Like, I mean, those are some of my favorite memories with the kids. Now they're getting older, and it's like they're not as cute, so like their costumes aren't as cool. Like they're cool to them, I know. Like, my daughters told me what they were gonna be for Halloween. I had no fucking clue what it meant. And I'm like, okay. And they tried to show me pictures, and I was like, I don't know what any of this is, but they're older now, and it's not the same. They're doing it for the coolness factor, not really the candy. But like I said, I'm all about the diabetes. Give me that fucking candy. Um, and I used to steal their candy too. You know, they didn't know it, but they'd get all the candy. Basically, when they were younger, they'd go get candy, and it was all mine. I'd steal all their candy. So I'd be like, let's keep going. Let's keep going. They don't have enough. They don't have enough candy. It's all mine, motherfuckers. But Halloween with the kids was always fun. I used to love carving pumpkins. That was one of my favorite things to do with the kids. We always got excited about it every year, and I usually would just find the ugliest pumpkin I could find and try to make something out of it. We tried those books. I mean, how many of you have tried those books and actually came up with something like really cool, like the ones where you have to tape it on, like tape the stencil on and like poke all the holes in, and it never comes out the way like what I used to do is poke all the holes. I remember I did it a couple times trying it because I was like, I'm gonna carve this motherfucker. It's gonna look badass, and like poking all the little holes and getting excited, and then you fucking take the stencil off and you just see a bunch of fucking holes, and you're like, "Where's the fucking pattern?" Like, you can't see it after you poke all the damn holes, and I don't know what to do here, and try to trace it and connect the dots, and it turns into just a joke. So I stopped doing that shit. Like, I can't stand those things, man. I mean, I know some people can use them, and they're pretty popular, but like I was like, I just see a bunch of fucking stars. What the fuck is this? And so I just try to draw on it and like make something funny. And I remember one time I had this pumpkin that was like it was on its side and like the stem was sticking out the side. I was like, "There's my nose." I'm gonna fucking I made the coolest pumpkin with that. Like, and the stem was actually the nose. But you carve pumpkins with the kids. You do like 90% of the work, and they just tell you what they want. And then when they get older, they like are able to do it themselves. And you know, Halloween traditions, man. That's like that's the fun part of it. Just sharing time with the family and doing stuff like that.
Yeah, and your pumpkin never turned out the way that you wanted it to. You know, just you'd have this picture in your head and you try to carve it out, and it would just always fuck. You'd always fuck it up. But it was fun to do that with the kids. Um, I always heard people like went around smashing pumpkins, and that's pretty fucked up. Like you spent all this time with the kids, like carving the pumpkins and go around and just smash them. Fucking hooligans.
Do you like the band Smashing Pumpkins though? I mean, they're pretty rad. I've always liked them. Good to see them still playing. Oh, that has nothing to do with Halloween, really, but they are kind of spooky, right? Sometimes, especially when like Billy Corgan shaved his head. Like, but anyway,
But I used to love trick or treating when I was a kid. In Lake LA, we used to just go. Our parents would just say, go trick or treating." I mean, I guess that was okay to do in the late '80s. But all the neighborhood kids would just go around the blocks in Lake LA and just go from house to house, and we'd be out for hours. Remember, we'd stop off at Uncle Alan's house on the block over, and me and my brother would always get like the good candy. He always gave us like the big old giant bars, and our friends would be all fucking jealous. Um, Shout out to Uncle Alan. But we used to go around the blocks and um, get our pillowcases full of candy. I mean, we go for hours, and then we come back and we trade candy. We'd trade with each other. That was always the most fun. And like, you got candy that you didn't like, other people might want it, and you could trade it for candy that they have. It was super fun. We'd dump out our score. I know we had to like inspect it like before we could eat any, but we would all just fucking eat it. Who cares? I know back then we were always like worried that they were gonna put razor blades in our fucking candied apple, but our parents had to inspect all our candy. They still do that now, but I just remember like just eating candy like while we were going out, and coming back and trading candy with our friends. It was super fun times, man. But one thing I was always scared of, or like I guess paranoid, when we were trick or treating was the bag snatchers. And we had these kids, the older kids would always say like, "I'm not trick or treating. I'm too cool for that. We're gonna go bag snatching. We're gonna steal all the kids' candy." And so I was always paranoid that some older kid was gonna walk by me and steal all my candy. We were always in like big groups and stuff like that. But like even when I got a little older, like even like the neighborhood kids down the street, like the older brothers would be like, "We're not trick or treating with you babies. We're gonna go bag snatching." And then they'd come back with a bag full of candy, be like, you know, We snatched this from some little kindergartners, you know, whatever. No, you didn't. Stop lying. You guys went trick or treating too. I mean, you'd always see the kids that would threaten us with bag snatch, and they would always be out there trick or treating, even going to the same houses. I was always paranoid about that, you know. And it got kind of scary out there in Lake LA. It was super quiet. We'd be out there after a while where there was no more kids on the street. And it was getting kind of scary. You'd be like, can we go home, guys? But, you know, fun times out there in the lake, man. I remember when I was a little older, I was probably 15, something like that. We were getting a little too old to be trick or treating, but me and a couple of my friends had this idea that we were going to go out and we were going to paint our faces and dress up and paint our faces and then, you know, go around to all these houses and then work our way back, but we were going to put a mask on over the painted face. And that way we could hit the same fucking houses and they wouldn't know it was us. And that shit fucking worked. It was crazy. Like we went to the same houses, trick or treat, and they didn't even realize it was the same kids that had just come by. So we went to the same houses, got the same candy, and we didn't have to walk as far. So that was kind of a little trick we found out. But you like go trick or treating for the candy, right? You know, it's what it's all about. That's why we would do it. It wasn't for any other reason. We'd get all excited about getting all that candy. We'd come back with pillowcases full of fucking candy. The thing is, like, with Halloween candy, like, I don't really buy candy throughout the year. Maybe once or twice I'll buy a bag of candy. I mean, I do love, you know, some Reese's. Anything Reese's is like my go-to, and I love me some Twizzlers. Um, I know Twizzlers. A lot of people say that's just fucking flavored wax almost, but it's fucking good. Twizzlers are fucking good. I don't care. Fuck you. My favorite's always the chocolate, like the Snickers and the fucking Milky Ways. Like those are the best ones, man. You know, Butterfingers. Oh, Butterfinger. Hell yeah. Like, what were those things? Fuck, it was like taffy or something with like a peanut butter filling, came wrapped in like black and orange, like wax paper. Everybody hated those, but I love those fucking things, man. Fucking delicious. Those things will fucking pull out a filling, though. I guess that's why Halloween is like the dentist's favorite holiday. You know, all the kids going out and getting all this candy, getting fucking cavities and diabetes. But anyway, so I think my favorite thing about Halloween is that they play all the fucking classic like horror movies, like all the classics, like you know what I'm talking about, like fucking Halloween, fucking Friday the 13th, right? And my favorite all time is Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, Freddy Krueger is the best fucking horror villain ever fucking invented. I don't care. Hands down. I mean, dude's got fucking knives for fingers, bro. He gets in your dreams and he's fucking burnt, dude. Like his whole body is burnt. Dude, he's scary as fuck. Like when I was a kid, like that dude scared the shit out of me. I remember watching fucking the original Nightmare on Elm Street when he's like running down the alleyway chasing after her and his arms like fucking grow. I was like, holy shit. I was scared. You know. That one's my favorite. Classic, dude. Like there ain't nothing better than Freddy Krueger, bro. I mean, they started getting cheesy later. You know, I will admit that. Like a lot of the fucking movies started getting cheesy. I remember one though. It was one of the I can't remember which one it was, but he jumps out of the closet and dude, I almost shit myself. But come on, man, he gets in your dreams and like what he does in your dreams happens in real life, right? And like that scene where like Johnny Depp, right, in the first movie, where like he gets sucked into the fucking waterbed and fucking blood shoots all over the room. Like that's so crazy, bro. Like it's so dumb but crazy too at the same time. So classic, bro. And then, you know, I do love, you know, Halloween is they're all fucking great. Um, you know, fucking Michael Myers is insane. You can't kill that fool.
I even like the newer ones, like the ones that just kind of came out in the last few years. Like those are pretty badass too. Like, you know, when you see him like without the mask, like just from behind, you don't really see his face, you know, but you see him from behind, he's like so fucking intimidating looking. Like that's crazy shit, dude. Like fucking Michael Myers is a badass, bro.
You know, and that mask, you know, I don't know if you know, but that mask is like a William Shatner mask. It's like it was like a fucking Captain Kirk mask, the OG one. They like cut the eyes out and just like spray painted it white and like fucked up the hair, and that was the mask. Fucking Captain Kirk. But yeah, like Halloween's fucking crazy, and like that hockey mask, you know, Jason wears in Friday the 13th is just fucking, that's fucking iconic, right? But those like three like classic ones. Like there's a lot of other ones, right? But those three classics, I mean, you got to watch those during Halloween time. I mean, those movies are so fucking iconic. They're so badass. And that's the best part is like watching marathons of like Nightmare on Elm Street or watching marathons of Halloween. I mean, this time of year is just fucking, that's the best. And why is Halloween like, people want to call it like, oh, a satanic holiday. Why are you celebrating this satanic holiday?
But really, like, who the fuck cares? It's fucking like it's fun. People like being scared. People like, I mean, there's all these goths that are like Halloween all year round. And honestly, like I go around, I used to, I don't do it much anymore, but I used to go around and buy like Halloween decorations for my everyday. And I'm not like goth or like anything like that, but like I love skulls and I love, you know, shit like that. And I used to buy Halloween shit just for my everyday decoration. I mean, it's just fun. People like scary shit. I mean, think about this. How many holidays are celebrated all year round? I mean, some people live in spooky season all year round. Do you see people dressed up like Santa Claus all year round? No. People celebrate Christmas year round? No, they don't do that. So, but that's what you got to think about. That's why, like, people like being scared. People like, you know, skulls and shit like that, like scary stuff. People love that shit. It's the only holiday where people celebrate it all year round, to tell you the truth. Just in October, that's when, you know, kicks into full throttle and everybody celebrates the spooky season, right? But some people do it all year round. You don't see that with other holidays. That's why Halloween's the best holiday. You know, and people love, like year round, you hear like podcasts and stuff like that. People love hearing ghost stories and shit, right? So, I mean, we used to live in a house. I believe in ghosts, honestly, because we used to live in a house that had ghosts. It was haunted. And I'm not going to get into details, but we had a ghost in our house. We lived in a house for me and my brother and like all our friends. You guys remember our house. Um, there was a ghost there. So how do I know? Okay, there was times where we'd hear like noises from the other room. We'd go check. It was like crazy, like what the fuck, right? And one time when the band was practicing, I don't know if you guys remember the house. There was like a hot tub that was right there where we used to practice, and we were just practicing, just playing a song. And next thing you know, smoke just coming from the hot tub, right? That's a ghost, bro. That was the ghost. One time I was like sleeping. I was probably passed out, drunk, sleeping, and I turned my TV off. And I know it was dark. My TV was off, and I felt something flip up the fucking blanket from the corner of my bed, and I totally felt that shit. And as that happened, the TV turned on. I mean, fuck, dude, that was like, I know that was fucking. You know, we used to say, I'm not gonna say names because I don't want to get into that whole story of the house we lived in, but you know, we used to joke about it. It was like that was the fucking ghost that we have in our house. You know, and like shit like that used to happen all the time. Like cabinets would open up and shit would fall out and be like, what the fuck? Like all the ramen and fucking mac and cheese that we had in our cabinets, because that's what we lived on back then. You know, toilet seats would fall down and nobody would be there. You know, we went through so much shit in that house. Like there was definitely a ghost in that house. So we've experienced. I believe in that shit. I believe in like the supernatural and ghosts like that. Like, you know, what it is, I don't know what it is. I don't know what ghosts are. I don't know if they're spirits that are still here. It's just I believe in that shit. Like I definitely believe in ghosts. Like we definitely had a ghost in that house, and I didn't really know. I don't know if I really believed in ghosts before that, but like, yeah, I definitely believe in ghosts after living in that house. But people love watching those shows, right? Those like ghost hunter shows and ghost adventure shows. I think those are fake as fuck to me. I mean, I have people that disagree with me, but I think those shows are fake as fuck. But people will watch them year round. You don't see people watching like A Christmas Story. You'll shoot your eye out, kid. You know, Fragile, like that fucking show, right? You don't see people watching that year round. It's only during Christmas time, right? So it's things like that. Like that's why Halloween's better than all the holidays. You know, I think that people really love being scared. You know, people love that rush. It's the most interesting one. So Halloween is by far the best holiday. And that's all I really have to say about it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be safe out there this Halloween. You're trick-or-treating and stuff. Don't get stabbed in the ass by Michael Myers. Don't fall asleep. Freddy will get you. I'm out of here, guys. Peace.